Welcome back to an exciting best of Remember This Crap. Isn't it nice when you repackage stuff just to make more quantity? So with the Cubs about to face the San Diego Padres in the 2025 MLB playoffs, I got thinking about the epic 1984 Remember This Crap that Mike Donahue and I did. And it's a long one. It's one of the most popular ones. So apparently it's worth going through the Ken Burns documentary link. It's like 3 hours and 28 minutes, something like that. It's a good one. I thought, though, it would be kind of fun to just pull out the section about the 1984 NLCS. So those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with the trauma associated with that, you could endure it like we did. And for those of us who do remember it, we go back and relive it. Because clearly this Cub team will get their revenge for 1984. So anyway, what's cut out of Remember This Crap from that episode, and you should go back at some point and listen to the whole thing if you haven't heard it. It's a really good one. There's some clips at the beginning of Harry. There's one of Milo. I think there's Vince and Lou. Some highlights from the 84 season. And then there's just the 38-minute section, 38, 36 minutes, something like that section, where we talk about the games in the 84 NLCS. So here it is in a nice condensed form for you.
Harry Carey back at Wrigley Field. Here's Ryan Sandberg to lead it off. First pitch low, ball one. Boy, the ovation the crowd gave the Cubs as they trotted into the dugout at the end of the top half of the inning was something to hear. Here's the pitch. Strike call, and the crowd evens up with a ball to the strike. That was a high strike, and Sandberg can't believe it. He is tracking the Doug Harvey. He thought the pitch was high. No ball and a strike. Sandberg hitting .327 now. The pitch. There it goes! Way back! It might be! It could be! It is! Holy cow! The game is tied! The game is tied! Ryan Sandberg did it! Listen to the crowd! We go to the bottom of the 10th. Cardinals now leading 11-9. Here comes Sandberg. Listen to the crowd. And I was just thinking here of the difference between a one-run lead that the Cards have and a two-run lead that they are enjoying. You're near being on with a one-run lead. Sooner on the hill, a corner behind the plate. It's very likely Steele would be in scoring position. Absolutely. Well, entry age sometimes hurts you and quick reflexes on slow balls. First pitch to Sandberg is low, ball one. One ball, no strikes, two out, a runner at first. 11-9 in favor of the Cardinals. The pitch. Strike on the outside corner. They give Sandberg the entire right field section. Now to stretch the pitch. Hey! Oh, way back! Might be out of here! He did it! He did it again! The game is tied! Holy cow! How about that? Everybody's gone bananas. Holy cow! What would the odds be? Like Artie Harris would say. What would the odds be if I told you that Dwight Sandberg would hit home runs off Bruce Sutter?
You can try to pitch a hitter a certain way, but when you're in trouble and a little tired, as Darlin is, he might make a mistake.
Here's the pitch.
He did.
There's a drive way back. It might be. It could be. It is! on his nose. Cubs win! Cubs win! Rick Sutcliffe making his debut as a Cub at Wrigley Field has pitched a 5-hit shutout. Drive out the pitcher's game's over. Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win. This should be it. Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win! Holy cow! And the Cubs have swept the 4-game series.
There's a drive back into center. It's well hit. It is going. Grand slam. Grand slam. Grand slam. Jody Davis.
Listen to this crowd. Might as well join them. Cubs are the champion! The Cubs are the champion! The Cubs win! Look at that mob scene! Ursula got on strike. Rick Sutcliffe is 14th in a row. 16-1 for the year. He faced only 28 men. He pitched a 2-hitter. Let's just watch him.
We go to the playoffs, and now the city's bonkers. Do you remember who broadcast the games on ABC?
Yeah, it was Keith Jackson.
Nope.
On ABC?
Yep.
I thought it was Earl
You may have
Weaver.
done. Yeah, Earl Weaver was in the booth.
Yeah. I thought it was Earl Weaver, Keith Jackson.
Nope.
Okay, who was it?
Don Drysdale
Oh, okay.
and,
All
and
right.
Reggie Jackson,
Reggie
who was still,
Okay,
he was still
yep.
playing. So Drysdale
Right.
had become Drysdale, in a sense, had replaced Harry Carey. He was a White Sox announcer that had come over with Sports Vision. Him and Hawk Harrelson and Early Win, like they had a whole new thing. They got rid of Harry, Jimmy Pearsall, and whatever. And Drysdale did Sox games on Sports Vision, but he was still connected to ABC to the point where he was there. Keith Jackson must have been doing the Royals Tigers series. All I remember, though, is that we were outraged at how much we were all convinced in Chicago how much the announcers hated the Cubs.
Yes.
And that it was even brought up on Channel 7 News that all the mail they were getting, which is just funny. It just kind of speaks to us being kind of goofs, probably, I think.
Yeah, and the real reason, I have a feeling had the series only been 2 games long, no one would have thought that.
Maybe, yeah.
But
Maybe.
you go to San Diego, you go to San Diego, and then the first game goes poorly. They get blown out, basically.
Yeah.
And then
And
we
then
know
there
what
will
happened.
be tomorrow.
We can get to this shit, I guess. We have to go through. It's 1984. We have to get to it.
Oh.
But I just have a feeling then everything, because the walls were crumbling down around us.
Yes.
Take it out on the announcers.
Announcers make it worse. Somehow I
And
thought they were
Reggie's
complaining.
an asshole.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned from the Bo Jackson book that Jeff Perlman wrote was the first time Bo Jackson met Reggie Jackson,
Okay.
Bo wanted to kick his ass. He just
Probably
thought
beat him
Reggie
up.
was the biggest asshole he'd ever met. And
I
he
can
just
see
wanted
that.
to kick
Reggie's
his ass.
got-
And it just made me love Bo that much more.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see Reggie. I can see Reggie rubbing people the wrong way. He's got the air about him.
Reggie was basically comparing the two of them as athletes. Great
Yeah,
athletes
Reggie-
like us, and Bo's
Reggie
looking
was
at
not
Reggie
even.
like,
Reggie was not even a great all-around baseball.
no, he
And
couldn't,
maybe
he
he
couldn't
was
feel
younger.
for shit.
Maybe he was younger. I think maybe he was a decent outfielder for Oakland.
Maybe
I don't know.
When he was an Oriole.
Did he have a cannon?
He
Yeah, the
catch,
one
he
year
catch
he was
the
an
ball when
Oriole.
he was an Oriole.
Yeah, what's funny is that I stayed home from school on opening day in what could have been a meaningless season, and yet I did not stay home from school in the playoffs. And I think the only reason is because it would have been obvious why I was staying home from school. But like my mom would have called in for me. My
Yeah.
sister got home. Like, I don't know.
He's got Cub fever.
It's okay. I had the VHS. I got all these games on tape. But I remember my mom picked me up and she's like, "No, here's what I remember. There were some cool teachers at Lively Junior High that would wheel in goddamn television
TV.
or a radio or a
Yeah,
radio.
Our teacher, Mr. Letcher, listened both days. We listened to the game on the radio.
I had, on the other hand, Mr. Anderson, who was just a stale, old, crusty math teacher. He liked sports. He claimed he liked sports, but he was there to teach math, right? And so, the game starts at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and so school ends at 2:40. We're going to see most of the game, but like, I'd rather see all of it or hear all of it. And so we're in that. And all the way at the other end of the hall is young Mr. Khan in science. Good looking Mr. Khan. He's the basketball coach. Everyone loved Mr. Khan. And of course, Mr. Khan brings the radio. I think it was a radio. I don't think it was a TV, whatever. Some live communication of the game is all the way at the other end of the hall. So obviously, everyone that's listening to this knows what happens in the first game. Sutcliffe, I don't know what he does in the top of the first. Bobby fucking Dernier, in the first Cubs postseason at bat in 39 years, hits a home run, right? And then two batters later, Gary Matthews hits a home run. I'll never forget that because I remember exactly. It's almost like the Kennedy assassination because I'm like sitting here and you just hear an eruption down the hall, right? And you're dying and you're like, you're such a dick, Mr. Anderson. You're writing fucking polynomials on the board and I don't know what's going on. It's got to be good. And then like 2 minutes later, you hear another chair because Matthews hits a homer. And like by the time my mom picked me up, she's like, even the pitcher hit a homer. I'm like, what? Rick Sutcliffe? But I remember like when the class ended, the bell hits, we're like running down the hall towards and they're running out with the news. Like, hey, Bob Dinner hit a homer. I'm just like, tell me what happened.
So you're equating in American history John F. Kennedy having that top of his head blown off, right, with Eric Shaw giving up 2 homers to the first 3 batters. Right. I think I am on board. I agree. Before we get to the playoffs, because it's probably time to talk about the playoffs. I didn't realize this till I just looked. Do you know how the 1984 regular season ended, and how it's kind of a perfect encapsulation of the Cubs were playing the Cardinals, and it's kind of a perfect little bow on the regular season.
I see from the box score they beat Suter.
They walked up. Bruce Suter blew a lead in the 9th inning of the final game of the season. The Cubs were down 1-0, and this ragtag group, Henry Cotto singled, Dan Roan singled, Thad Bosley singled, which scored Henry to tie the game.
Tied the game up.
Then Gary Woods walked, and Keith Moreland had a RBI. No, he didn't get an RBI. So here's what happened. I didn't even figure this out. Moreland grounds to third. There's a force out at home. Okay, I did figure it out. So they force out. Dan Roan's forced out at home. They must have tried. They did. They tried to get a double play. They threw the ball away.
And that's how the game ends?
So then Bosley scored to win the game. So Bruce Suter blew a save on the final day of the season.
What Bruce Suter had at stake for that save?
Oh, probably some kind of bonus, right?
Well, would have been the new all-time Major League record for saves in the season.
Oh, that's too bad.
Tied Dan Quisenberry, I want to say. It's been broken since then. I think Bobby Thigpen might still have the record, but Suter did actually set the National League record for saves in 1984 with 45, I believe.
Yeah, and that was his 8th blown save.
And 2 against the Cubs. So either one of those would have given him the Major League mark. Instead, he had to settle for a tie with Quisenberry until, I'm pretty sure that record stood until Thigpen blew it 1990, 6 years later. But I did not see that game because I was watching, and we mentioned this when we did a Bears-Cowboys, remember this crap, but I was in attendance when once again the Dallas Cowboys beat the Bears Soldier for the last time in a while. I just remember like hearing the end of the Cubs game, and then the Cubs all came out and paraded around the field and waved hi to the fans and said thanks.
So the Cubs were in the playoffs for the first time since 1945, when they lost the World Series to the Tigers, and they break out all the stops for the opener for the first playoff game at Wrigley. Ernie Banks threw out the first pitch in full uniform.
Oh, the Ronnie Woo Woo style.
Yeah, it may have been Ronnie, honestly. I saw that and was like, You go going Bob Feller, put the whole uniform on. You think he went and sat in stands then in full uniform? I mean, in case they want to activate me for the game, I'm ready. Like, okay, Ernie, no, we're not going to do that. Do you know who sang the national anthem and why?
I do, because we discussed it, because I thought he only did it in 89. He did it in 84 and 89. It was Jimmy Buffett, who was personal friend with Steve Goodman.
Who had died on
just died.
September 20th.
Yeah. Steve Goodman, of course, who wrote City of New Orleans and, a few other Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw that David Allan Coe made famous. Local guy, I think Niles North, been on the scene, was going to Cubs games in the 60s. He had cancer for like 10 years. He wrote Dying Cub Fans' Last Request, which pissed off Dallas Green. And in response, as an act of good faith, he wrote "Go Cubs Go," which in 1984 replaced the "Let's Go, bum, 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 batters up, bum, bum." That used to be the radio. We're taking the afternoon off. That used to be the intro to WGN, the standard
superior song. And we've talked about how a lot of people are convinced that "Go Cubs Go" is intentionally shitty.
Campy, yeah.
Because he's like, okay, fine. You want me to write a positive song? I'll fucking do it. Here you go. Deal with this piece of shit. And now we still hear it. Like this year, they played after every Cub win at Wrigley. Right. We'll hear it like 12 times.
Steve Goodman, thank you. He's a posthumously Grammy Award-winning artist, well respected in the folk writing and. Do
you think someday the Cubs will put him in the utility tunnel of fame?
You know what? They fucking should.
They should. Honestly. He should have been in the first. He should have been when they first did it.
I didn't think about that. He'll have to settle for that post office.
He's got to wait for Jeff Garland to go in probably before he can go.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, a really sad story too because he died young. He wasn't even like 40, and he died in '84. He wrote "Go Cubs Go."
He died just a few days before the clincher. He didn't even get to see the clincher.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of a tough deal, but immortalized in "Go Cubs Go," which again, I think you're right. He did that out of irony more than anything else. And the other funny thing was on television, the intro was 1984 Van Halen's Jump from the 1984 album. And that was also the song that they played that, even though they always had an organist, didn't they also play it at the park when they would take the field?
Yes, and they did it forever.
Yeah. They did bring it back, too. They kind of dormant, bring it back. So, yeah, a couple soundtracks for 1984 for you.
Yeah. As a treat to the fans, I played the entire 2-minute intro to WGN games that year at the top of this podcast right before my
so it's the Jump intro, then Milo talking about the
Milo talks right over it.
Over Eddie playing
it's 2 minutes long because they also work in the MLB disclaimer so that Harry didn't have to read it on the air during games.
Do they not read the disclaimer anymore?
I don't know if they do or if nobody does it live anymore. I don't even know if they bother to use.
Oh, it's a bumper.
Yeah, but I don't think you even have to do that anymore. It's like, go look at the fucking webpage. I think that's probably their answer.
Yeah.
True. Right. So the Cubs, they make it look easy in the opener. They pound out 16 hits. They score 13 runs.
Matthews had 2. They
had an 11-run lead. Dusty left Mark Pryor in and made him pitch the. No, that's a different series. Yeah. So okay, here's a good question though. With the 11-run lead, how many pitches did Jim Fry make Rick Sutcliffe pitch?
That is a good question. Would they have that in Baseball Reference? They might have it for a.
He pitched 7 innings. It doesn't look like they have pitches. He faced 28 batters.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't struggling. He didn't give up any runs.
No, he gave up. He did walk 5. He
He
made a run. Ryan Dempster had to best him for most walks in an opener, but Rick walked 5. But he also had an 11-run lead, so he could pitch around guys.
And a nice big home run himself onto the. The game was so ridiculous. Was Tom Verizor the starting? Oh, that was the last game of the other seat. Sorry, I was like, wait a second. But yeah, Sutcliffe not only homer, but he hit one out on a Sheffield, which I think it's proven it's a little bit harder to reach the street in right field than left, or at least it was then. And then a couple things too is that they didn't have real umpires for these games, and that was one of the reasons why we didn't like Drysdale, because they were almost like using that as an excuse. Felt like for the Padres. But the second game when Trout takes the hill, the great thing about that was where Dernier got on, and then Sandberg hit a bouncer to third, and I think he either beat the throw or he was out. But Dernier went from first to third, and then beat the. And of course, the umpire was out of position. Still made the right call.
Wait, are you saying that Dave Kavanaugh, Dave Slickenmeyer, Joe Pomponi, and Joe Maher weren't real umpires?
I remember the name Kavanaugh too.
I like this. It was 63 degrees with a 20-mile-an-hour wind in an unknown direction. All right. We don't know where it's windy, but we don't know where it's coming from. Does anybody know where the wind is coming from? No? The flags are all pointing different ways?
Swirling, the old crosswind. Yeah, the real umps came back for Game 5, I remember.
Just in time to fuck us, didn't they? Just in time to fuck us. Of course they did. That's when they made it back. Now, Game 2 was an actual competitive.
It was. In fact, what I remember, too, is that Lee Smith got the save, but, like, Henry Cotto got the last out. He was in for defense for Sarge.
He got it
Kerry
right
Kennedy
up against the wall. Basically, if you picture former Cub, Angel Pagan, trying futilely to catch Javi's home run in Game 1 of the 2016 NLDS.
Yep.
That ball, the ball that Cotto caught was about 2 feet farther in. That was it. Otherwise, the Cubs blows the lead. Or it ties it. Was there only 1 on or was there 2 on?
I thought it would have tied it.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, it would have tied it.
They might still be playing.
Yeah, Lee always made it interesting.
Yeah, he got garbage ground out. He walked Kevin McReynolds. No.
David had Davey Lopes for defense and right field. By the way, they acquired Davey Lopes in the trade deadline, and that actually meant bad news for Jay Johnstone. That's why Jay Johnstone was not on the playoff roster.
Right. So we know Jay has told the famous story that Fry hated him, thought he was a smartass. Go figure. Actually, Fry was a humorless dick. He just really was. So he didn't like Johnstone, and so he didn't want him on the playoff roster, and he convinced Dallas to leave him off the playoff roster, and he thought he was done with him. Like, we don't have to see him. And Dallas called Jay in, and he said, Jay, we don't have a spot for you on the playoff roster, but I'm going to make you the shower coach. And Jay's like, what's the shower coach? He's like, when the guys come in after the game, you point to the showers to let them know where they are. He said, you can be in uniform for the entire playoff run, because we're going to need somebody to point the guys to the showers. And so Jay shook his head and said thanks, and was there anyway, and basically gave Fry the finger every day after that. Actually, so in the ninth inning with a 4-2 lead, Jim Fry let Steve Trout pitch.
Oh,
he got garbage ground out. He walked Kevin McReynolds, and he took him out.
Okay,
it was a double switch. Davey Lopes.
That's what put Lopes in.
Davey Lopes came in.
Why the hell did you not get Moreland out
right
earlier?
field?
Yeah.
Lee came in, struck out Carmelo Martinez.
Former Cub the year before. Hit home run.
Terry Kennedy flew out.
Yep.
Missed a home run by about a foot. And the Cubs were up 2-0 and on their way to the World Series, and nothing can stop us. And this is
15
great.
In 15 years of divisional play, the Brewers had come back in 2 years earlier, down 2-0, and I think in that 81 sort of ad hoc divisional series, I think that one of the teams, Dodgers or whatever, came down, but it was very rare.
So is this the part where we debunk the Cub urban legend?
We've done it before,
right? That the games were supposed to be opposite. The Cubs were supposed to have the home games.
It was the National League West turn in '84. What would have happened? I think
even at that point, it wouldn't have made any sense, because the weekend games could easily have been day games.
Correct, and
ABC didn't want the first 2 games during the week to be during the day. So they would have switched it the other way. They wouldn't have switched it the way that it was.
Yeah, they always back then, even because they didn't. Nowadays, you have multiple platforms, so you put both games on primetime, I guess. But like back then, one network has the playoffs. They're gonna have to put a game on during the day, like when our grandparents would listen to games with the earbud in their ear. So that was a no-brainer. I think they would have switched it for the World Series, because the National League did have home field in '84, and the American League set was on the weekend. Because I remember Alan Trammell's 2-homer game was a daytime World Series, one of the last that I remember seeing.
See, I don't think they were good. I think what happened was
in '85 though, and the next year, they would have had to play in St. Louis.
In St. Louis, and that I think everybody has basically conflated those two things.
Correct. They said that Bowie Kuhn robbed us of a home game. Somehow that just became a total urban myth. Not true. Because back then, home field advantage was preset, and if you want to double check. Now, granted, they went to a best of 7 the next year.
Yes.
But the team that had home field the next year was because that was the Dodgers series with the Cardinals. I don't know. I'd have to. You can easily pick it apart. I know that's not the case. So, and the other thing we talked about, Johnstone being left off. I mentioned Rich Bordy being left off the playoff roster. My dad was particularly upset that Rick Russell, who had left the Cubs. We got Doug Bird for him in '81 to help the Yankees the World Series, and then immediately blew out his elbow. Worked his way back with the Cubs, and actually he won a couple games in '84. He had like a 5 ERA, but we were always all upset that Dallas Green, not being very sentimental like we were, didn't give Russell a roster spot. Instead, gave it to his old guy Warren Brewster. We were never huge Warren Brewster fans, but
yeah, well, the Russell thing would have been charity, but Bordy was literally one of their best relievers. It didn't make any sense that they left him off. Apparently, it was we doesn't have any playoff experience. How the fuck is he supposed to get playoff experience if he won't pitch him in a playoff game?
yeah,
Warren Brewster
the only
sucks.
game. Yeah, but Brewster didn't pitch in the playoffs except
He did. He
to close
pitched.
out.
He mopped up game 1, which is fine. It didn't.
But the only game where the bullpen would have been a factor was game 4. Both Tim Stoddard and Smith gave up runs. I don't like the bullpen was not why they lost, so it turned out not to be an issue. Basically, Eckersley didn't have it in game 3, and game 4 was just a wild back and forth game, and Sutcliffe ran out of gas in game 5.
Well, see, that's what makes me wonder. So I did a few years ago. I did a rewatch of Game 5. I'd seen it as a kid and had never watched it again. And I rewatched it and I wrote a running diary of it. Because one of the things we talked about a lot as Cub fans was why did Jim Frey try to save Sutcliffe to pitch Game 1 of the World Series? In other words, we don't need him to pitch. We're going to win.
Well, it would have been on game 4, which went to Sanderson. It would have been Sutcliffe on short rest.
Right. So the reason I felt like I debunked it because, I mean, it was hot. It would have been a night game, which would have been a little better for Big Rick. But the Sunday game was an afternoon game, and he visibly gets tired. The Cubs have a 3-0 lead, and he's out there with his tummy and his big beard, which
portly.
Neither of those things look like they'd be a lot of fun in the heat. And he starts to wear out, which made me wonder then why your ace needed to be pitching with an 11-run lead in Game 1.
Oh, yeah. Well,
could there have been a few bullets? But also, when you look back, I mean, it's a different time. 84 was a different time. I mean, the fact that nobody gave a shit Frey for the fact that his starting pitchers were starting 9th innings in these big games and then having to be relieved. Because that's how everybody did it. That was your starters were your best pitchers. Your relievers were mostly the guys who weren't good enough to start.
Lineup.
And you weren't going to put them in unless you absolutely had to.
And I'm just going to say, Lee Smith was a little shaky in 84. He proved it. He gave up the homer to Garvey. He was so dominant the 2 years before, and he's pretty dominant after too. But like he was a high wire act that seems like a lot in 84. Maybe that's nitpicking, but
probably.
Yeah, probably. Hey, let me have it.
The turning point moment.
But that is another analogy. Go ahead.
What was the analogy?
Well, a prior analogy about the workload in the previous, because there are a lot of other analogies, right? Like you have like Sutcliffe goes 14 games in a row. Wood and Pryor don't lose back to back both years. The Cubs have 3 cracks to win one game. There is a lot of airy parallel. That is kind of another one, but that's a little bit revisionist, like you said, because the proper context is nobody would have ever considered pulling Sutcliffe that early. We were screaming, like, why the hell is Pryor still in this game in 2003? So
the turning point in this series was Game 4, and it was the Cubs' complete inability to get Steve Garvey out. It's not just the home run that you see over and over and over again, which he swings late and he doesn't. And the whole thing, it's like, how the fuck did he even hit that thing out? But if you go through the game log here, whenever a batter drives in a run, his name is bold. Garvey's fucking name is bold every goddamn time. In the 3rd inning, he doubles and scores, drives in Alan Wiggins. In the 5th inning, he singles and he drives in Tim Flannery. In the 7th inning, he singles and he drives in Chris Brown. And this is a back and forth game, and he keeps tying it. Every time the Cubs get a lead, fucking Steve Garvey ties it until tied at 5 in the 9th with 1 out. Tony Gwynn gets a single off Lee Smith, and then Garvey hits a homer, and the Padres win 7-5. And now we gotta. That's gonna fuck up our day because we're gonna watch Walter Payton set the all-time break Jim Brown's record in the morning, and now we've got an afternoon baseball game when we were gonna just be celebrating the Cubs were going to the World Series on Saturday, and then watch Walter on Sunday.
My brother, first of all, my parents went out, which they hardly ever did back then. They went out to a party. And my dad was superstitious, so I'm sure he was nervous about doing it. My brother had people over. That's what you do. Parents are gone. People are going to be over here. And all I remember is my brother just standing up and saying, hey, Garvey hits his home run. All this means is that Steve Trout's going to pitch the first game of the World Series. He's trying to believe it, right? Same guy that was at the game in 2003, the Bartman game, and he called me. He's like, "Is that all you got?" I think deep down, even he knew it. You also mentioned like Harry on the radio. He did do the playoff. I've heard a compilation with Garvey's hits and Harry.
There's a lot of that.
And it's like, Garvey does it again. And he was.
4 for 5 with 5 RBIs in that game.
He drove in every run?
No, 5 of the 7.
7, it was 7 to 5. Jesus.
So another thing to just make it really irritating was after the 1982 season, Garvey was a free agent. And he narrowed it down to 2 teams. The Dodgers didn't want him back. And he was either going to sign with the Cubs or he was going to sign with the Padres.
I don't want him.
I didn't want him, but if he'd have been a Cub, he wouldn't have been on the fucking Padres.
Yeah.
Here's what I would have done. I would have signed him, and I would have benched him. I would have never played him, just so he could have never played against us. No, I mean, you know why he signed with the Padres. So here's this all-time winner, the guy who broke Billy Williams' record for consecutive games. And now the Dodgers are like, fuck, we don't want you. And now he's got to pick between 2 dog-ass teams, the 82 Cubs and the Padres. Yep. Because everybody's looking around like Garvey's washed up. Nobody's going to pay him any money. And you know why he stayed in San Diego? Because he had to stay close to his 11 illegitimate kids that nobody knew he had. But I guarantee you that's why he stayed on the West Coast. So fuck that dude.
Well, all right, I'll buy it. I never liked Garvey. Played for the Dodgers, right? Pretty boys. I always kind of because I like Bill Buckner, I always kind of felt like Bill Buckner that the Dodgers chose Buckner, so screw them. They don't know what they had. Garvey was the first baseman. Buckner had to play left field when he was in LA. He right-handed hitter. I don't know. It's he never, he just I'm speechless.
No, I think the fact that he came that close to signing with the Cubs was just proof that the Cubs had so little. The Dallas was basically looking at because team construction wise, the last thing that team needed, you already had
Buckner was in his prime,
and you were trying to find a spot for Durham to play every day. The last thing you needed was to take that dwarf and play with his big forearm.
That's why I have a tough time buying. That's why I have a tough time buying it, unless like Bill Buckner, because it is kind of like I said to start the show. I mean, Buckner was he was a fixture right up until 2 months into the '84 season, and it just seemed weird because he played another 5 years. Guy probably had about 2,500 career hits. Yeah, Peyton sets the record the next day, and then Brent Musburger interviews him from the studio, and he actually asks him, what's going to happen later on today. Even Walter was asked. Of course, he said the Cubs are going to win.
They're going to choke. Brent, what do you think they're going to do? You grew up in Chicago,
that game,
Brent. You knew. You're a Cub fan.
And that game 5, it was such a crusher game 4, very much like the Bartman game, right? Where it's like, just like in game 7 in 03, when fucking first Wood hits a homer, or first it's a Lou and then Wood, and the place goes nuts. In this game, Durham and Davis, who both homered the night before, the damage was done. Slog, right? They had a 3-0 lead, and like you said, you already kind of described it, Sutcliffe just kind of laboring in the sun, and San Diego kept kind of chipping further and further, and just to see it slip away, to experience that, it was just what a brutal end to just an incredible, surprising season.
Yeah, so the Padres led 2-0 after 3. The Cubs got the lead right back, 3-2 in the 4th.
You're talking about the Saturday night game. Sorry,
Padres tied it in the bottom of the 5th. Well, my network crapped out, so I didn't hear part of what you said.
I was talking about the Sunday game when, after a brutal loss, just like in 03 when Wood and, they homered, the Cubs jumped out the next day even after that. So, but yeah, the Saturday game was just a wild back and forth.
Yeah, so the Padres are up 2-0 after 3. The Cubs take the lead in the 4th, up 3-2. The Padres tie in the bottom of the 5th. The Padres then go up 5-3 in the 7th, and he's like, the Cubs are screwed. But then the Cubs tie it in the 8th. And then the Padres win it.
Keith Moreland with a single, Jody with a double. Yeah, they took the lead on back-to-back homers off of 2 in the 4th. Jody had a 2-run homer, then Durham, and then Jody. Jody had a big game that night.
And then the top of the 9th, with the still tied, the great Tom Verizor led off, but he popped out. Dernier doubled. Sandberg popped out to 3rd. Matthews walked. Cotto got hit by a pitch, so Say's up with the bases loaded.
Yep.
And he grounded out to second.
A coked out Alan Wiggins, no doubt.
So it's all Ron Say's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boo. You ruined our childhood, Ron.
Bob Costas was hosting NFL Live. He was the Brett Musburger did the CBS show. I remember even young Bob Costas at the end of like recapping the NFL games expressed his condolences to the Cubs, and I was just like,
fuck off,
bursting out in tears. What a rough day. And you're right. It was like it should have been a joyous day. Sweetness set the NFL rushing mark very same day. But no. Thus endeth our innocence, Annie. In the future would be teenagers. Baseball might become a little less important, blah, blah, blah. And we'd wait, 32 more years.
Many of us have herpes.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Thank you. Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much, Awesome. Andy.